Hello, this is Frances, welcoming you to the 1905th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline, the 23rd of May 2013. The readers this week are Sonia, Jenny, Phil, and myself, Frances, with Keith on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser, and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Breur, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perret, and is used with his kind permission. Local stories include Council foiled in bid to ignore new law on planning permission, cracking down on the chuggers, surge in rent relief claims, schoolgirls' screen debut. First of all, the special news items this week. Regarding Sonata, from this month, thanks to the support of the British Wireless for the Blind Fund, the Enfield Talking newspaper is available on Sonata, an internet audio player specially designed for use by blind and partially sighted people. Sonata offers another way for you to access our service and means that people who have moved away from Enfield, who are no longer able to receive our cassettes, can keep up to date with local news. Sonata devices need a broadband connection and are available from the British Wireless for the Blind Fund. The charity offers devices on free loan to people who meet its eligibility criteria. And for more information, contact David Beard of the BWBF on 01622 754 757. That's 01622 754 757. And then over to Jenny. Sonia.
Make a Noise in Libraries Fortnight. As part of the RNIB's Make a Noise in Libraries Fortnight, the Enfield Library Service will be holding an introduction to e-books and devices. The event will take place on Monday the 3rd of June from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. at Enfield Town Library. Spaces are limited, so to reserve a place, please telephone Gemma Panayi on 020 8379 2732. The John Jackson Library in Bush Hill Park will host a listening group where you can listen to a book or music together. The group will take place on the 4th and the 13th of June from 10:30 until 12. For more information, again, contact Gemma Panayi on 020 8379 2732.
Email befriending service. The Thomas Pocklington Trust runs a free email befriending service for people with sight loss. This service is available to people with sight loss who are 18 years old and above. Service users and volunteers will be paired up and exchange frequent emails. If you are interested in exchanging regular emails with a trained e-befriender, then get in touch with the Trust on befriending@pocklington-trust.org.uk or 020 8996 1930. You will need to complete a simple form to ensure you are being paired with someone suitable, but we can do this over the phone, through email, or post this out to you.
RNIB Technology Support Squad. The RNIB Technology Support Squad is a team of hundreds of volunteers throughout the UK, ready to help by phone or with a home visit. We're on hand to help install and use new technology such as Freeview, satellite or cable equipment, DVD players, and switching on audio description, tuning digital radios, using telephones, computers or laptops, and sorting out problems with hardware such as monitors and printers. To find out more or to get support from the RNIB Technology Support Squad, call the helpline 0303 123 9999.
If you're experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 0208 805 6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. And now Sonia will read the first item of local news.
The numbers of people applying to Enfield Council for help with their rent has nearly trebled compared with this time last year, according to figures obtained by the advertiser. The steep rise in the number of people applying for discretionary housing payments, which are open to residents on housing benefit, has raised fears that the government's austerity programme is pushing people into rent arrears and could lead to an increase in homelessness. Last month, 399 households applied to the council for DHP, which can help residents who are having trouble paying rent or council tax. The number of claims in April 2012 was just 145. The government recently awarded the council $3.2 million to fund DHP. And because the new benefit cap is being piloted in Enfield, the government has allocated a further £470,000, bringing the total level of support to £3.7 million. The council's allocation for DHP last year was £816,298. The government's controversial bedroom tax came into force in April. The new law means 1,767 families in Enfield with at least one spare room in their home will have between 14 and 25% knocked off their housing benefit. Ahmet Oykuner, Cabinet Member for Housing, said, "There is a danger that rent arrears will lead to evictions, which means the council, which has a duty to house homeless families, would have to pay for placing additional families in temporary accommodation like bed and breakfasts. The government is increasing hardship for people, but local authorities are increasingly footing the bill. When we get an indication that the 3.7 million will not be enough, I will certainly be knocking on the government's door for further support." The council said that DHP can only provide temporary support to allow time for individuals and families to resolve financial problems. At present, the government has not committed to any future level of funding for DHP. Conservative councillor Ertan Hura, who sits on the Housing Scrutiny Committee, said, "We are still in a transitory phase, and normally, when changes are coming in, you have a rise in people asking for support. It is good that there is support, but we have to be realistic. In some cases, people may have to move to accommodation that is more suitable to their needs."
A 10-year-old schoolgirl from Enfield played the lead role in a short film that is appearing in the Festival de Cannes on the Côte d'Azur this week. Nicole Pafitis from Bincote Road in Oakwood played the part of Lol, a 7-year-old girl who lives in her father's market stall van and dreams of a brighter future. The 13.5-minute film, also called Lol, is directed by Lydia Essler and was filmed over 5 days in Greenwich and South London in March 2012, when Nicole had just turned 9. She got the part after being put up for audition by the drama school she attends, Bowden's, in Barnet. Nicole, who is in Year 5 at Merry Hills Primary School in Bincote Road, said, "I thought I'd be good for the part because I've done another short film before called Phone Call. In the audition, they asked me to get into a suitcase because in the film the character has to do that, and I fit." Nicole said she really enjoyed her time on set, even though there was rather a lot of waiting around in the cold. They had to change a lot of the cameras and angles, so we had to wait a lot. But me and Vidal Sancho, who plays my dad Luca, used that time to practice our scenes and our lines. One scene in particular required quite a lot of work, when Nicole had to climb up on top of a transit van and jump about while wearing a harness. Nicole said, "It was really fun to be on top of the van. I really enjoyed that scene. All the people on the film were very nice. We had lots of fun. And on the last day, we got pizza. I love pizza." Nicole lives at home with her parents, Kathy and Neo, her 14-year-old brother, Christos, and her 6-month-old brother, Emilio. Nicole explained, "I've seen the film many times now because my family all watched it separately and they all wanted me to be there. I felt a bit nervous about watching it back for the first time, but everyone was telling me I'd done really well, and after I watched it I thought, yeah, it is good." The film is doing the rounds of this year's film festivals, including being shown at Cannes, Court Métrage Short Film Corner in the Palais des Festivals, and then Nicole hopes her friends will finally be able to see it. She said, "They've been telling me that I'm going to be a superstar, but I just laugh. I really enjoyed it. It was a really good experience."
Council bosses have been thwarted in their attempts to stop developers being given free rein to turn empty offices into new homes. In March, Enfield Council applied for an exemption from a new law which will allow property developers to convert empty and unused office blocks into houses and flats without applying for planning permission. They argued the move could wipe out business in the borough, with housing developments squeezing out any room for commercial investment, and could even deepen economic woes in some parts of Enfield. However, the bid to opt out of the new law has been rejected, leaving council bosses furious that carefully planned developments in the borough could be undermined by whole-scale conversions. Speaking to the Advertiser after last week's announcement, the council's cabinet member for regeneration, Dale Goddard, said, "We, as a local authority, have gone through extended processes in developing planning policy for the borough, and part of that includes allocating things like designated industrial areas. Having gone through that process of working out where the best places are to build houses in the borough, it is unbelievable that this government should then try and come out with a way to undermine that. The issue is not a planning issue. The government seems obsessed with the idea that planning regulations get in the way. We are aware of the need for housing in London, and we have made plans for that, but this is not the solution." Mr Goddard said that the council bosses had put in an application for the exemption due to mounting concerns that developers would have a free hand to convert businesses into homes in areas where industrial processes, HGV lorries and air quality make it unsuitable or unsafe for housing. If there was a developer who wanted to build in an area that was unsuitable, then obviously our ability to stop it has been completely removed, he added.
Council chiefs have announced new rules designed to limit the number of charity fundraisers, also known as chuggers, on the borough's streets. Last week, Enfield Council signed an agreement with the Public Fundraising Regulatory Association, the body of charities that regulates face-to-face fundraising. It means that the number of charity fundraisers in the borough will be limited to 5 at any one time. There are also restrictions on the locations in which they can operate. Under the agreement, chuggers are only allowed to operate at the top end of Church Street in Enfield, between Burley Way and Silver Street. Charities that breach the agreement or carry out face-to-face fundraising without consulting the council will be reported to the PFRA and could be fined between £20 and £200, depending on how severely they are found to have broken the rules. The council's move comes after a survey by the Local Government Association revealed that most councils thought the presence of face-to-face fundraisers discouraged people from visiting shopping centres. Chris Bond, Cabinet Member for the Environment, said, "The rules we have agreed limit the number of chuggers in our borough, restrict them to a particular location in town, and make sure that there is a reasonable space between them so shoppers can give them a wide berth if they so desire. We need to do everything we can while the economy is in the doldrums to help our town centres and limit an activity which we believe can discourage people from visiting our shops." Ian McQuillan, head of communications at the PFRA, said, "We have to strike a balance. Charities have a right to fundraise on the street, but at the same time residents should not be unduly pressured to give. We are really pleased that we have signed this contract with Enfield Council. These agreements make sure that fundraising is sustainable and there are clear rules in place. If there are more than 5 fundraisers or their behaviour causes problems, the Council can call us and we will resolve the issues. This means the Council does not have to deal with all charities, but just come to us as that we are a one-stop shop." The PFRA runs a diary for 133 sites across the capital and has agreements in place with 7 other London boroughs. The agreement does not cover fundraising conducted by volunteers with collection tins, such as the Royal British Legion collections for Remembrance Day.
These are exciting times for the east of the borough, with a major regeneration of Ponders End underway and work taking place in Enfield Lock. A joint service centre is planned for the Hertford Road, Ordnance Road area of Enfield Lock, combining a library, GP and dental practices, and vital community space. Ordnance Road Library has already moved to a temporary site while the original building is knocked down. Meanwhile, in Ponders End, the revamped park is proving a big draw for families as the weather improves, while Oasis Academy Hadley pupils are enjoying their new home on the former gasworks site in South Street. The Cuckoo Hall Academy Trust is also hoping to open a second school on the former Middlesex University site in Queensway, although this is at odds with the Council's plans for a £270 million regeneration of the area, which would see the old police station closed and up to 408 homes built, as well as a revamp of Ponders End High Street. Tied in with plans to improve the High Street and the shops are proposals to boost transport links, as well as making life easier for pedestrians and cyclists to get around. And with a total revamp of the Alma estate, providing up to 1,000 new homes, on the cards, it's definitely all change in EN3.
A charity providing help and support to blind people in Enfield is one of 30 projects sharing a £7 million cash pot from the Big Lottery Fund, BLF. The Middlesex Association for the Blind has been handed £117,000 from the National Lottery's charitable arm. The cash is put aside for good causes, and community groups and voluntary organisations can apply for a share. A total of 30 projects across London have received money from the BLF. Alison Rowe, spokesman for the London region, said, "This is a major investment into the capital that is very much targeted at empowering those most in need to lead more fulfilled lives."
An elderly man has been reunited with his £23,000 life savings after he was duped by a rogue trader. The 81-year-old man was tricked in his Ponders End home by the cold caller, who told him urgent repair work was needed at a cost of £400. After the victim, who does not want to be named, paid the cash to the fraudster, who used the false company name A&N Damp Proofing Drainage Solutions Limited, the cost of the work soon rocketed to £20,000. The pensioner paid an extra £3,000 before the trickster arranged for him to be driven to Barclays Bank in Ponders End in November last year and transferred £20,000 to a bank account specified by the trader. Staff became suspicious and contacted the receiving bank. They were told the account holder was waiting to withdraw the money in cash. The payment was immediately frozen, and the financial investigator from Enfield Borough Council's Trading Standards team used powers under the Proceeds of Crime Act to ensure the money would not be transferred. The 24-year-old account holder, a student, was traced and when interviewed was told the victim was an elderly man and he could be given a 14-year prison sentence as his actions could be considered as money laundering. He admitted he allowed someone he met in a pub to access his accounts and agreed to tell his bank to return the money to the elderly man. The bogus workman has been arrested and interviewed pending further action.
Dear. Large crowds flocked to Groveland's Park over the weekend to mark its centenary celebrations. The two-day spectacular at the park in the Bourne Southgate marked 100 years since its official opening in 1913. The celebrations, which were organised by the Friends of Groveland's Park, featured live music, dance, plenty of children's activities, sports displays and exhibitions. A historic pageant saw young and old dressing up in clothing from the start of the 20th century in a bid to replicate the opening 100 years ago. There were also about 60 stalls run by charities and schools, as well as those offering plenty of different things to eat and drink. Visitors also had the chance to go rowing on the lake for the first time in more than 30 years, thanks to a joint venture between community website n21.net and the 10th Enfield Sea Scout.
Campaigners have warned of threats to services after figures reveal levels of community health staff, including nurses in North London, have been reduced by 15% over the past year. Department of Health figures show that for the now defunct North and Central London NHS Primary Care Trust, which included the boroughs of Enfield, Barnet, Haringey, Camden and Islington, 61 nurses and other staff such as dietitians were made redundant between April 2012 and April 2013 as it was closed down. Community nurses are those not based in hospital, and the figures include mental health nurses. As part of the government's NHS reform programme, primary care trusts and strategic health authorities were abolished last month. Instead, control of budgets has been handed to clinical commissioning groups made up of GPs at a local level and the newly created body NHS England. The Royal College of Nursing, representing nursing staff, said that taking into account those who left of their own accord, North Central London had lost 15% of its community health staff since April 2012. Health campaigners warned that the cuts could lead to a drop in the quality of care, worsening conditions for health staff and added pressures on hospitals at a time when the borough is facing a loss of services at Chase Farm in the Ridgeway. Alif Kazimoglu, chairman of Enfield Council's Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Panel, said, with A&E services being removed at Chase Farm Hospital at the end of the year, these people will turn up at A&E departments in increased numbers, adding to further pressure on local hospitals. The recent Francis report into the failings at Stafford Hospital found that there is a clear correlation between number of nurses and quality of care. This really is a false economy. And it does not tally with the primary health care strategy. A spokesman for the Barnet, Enfield and Haringey Mental Health Trust told the advertiser, from our perspective, we keep our staffing levels within our community services under review to ensure that we are able to meet the needs of patients referred to our services. Figures published by the Department of Health show that in April 2012 there were 5,865 community health staff in London. By April 2013, 4,849 of those staff were employed in the health and social care system, a drop of 17%.
And we have now reached the end of side one of this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over and start side two.